Hey, welcome back. Listen, I did the nosing video and building a nosing kit and how to get started on that, and that was pretty popular. So we're going to continue today with the tasting wheel, and I'll have more for you on that right after this. All right, let's get right into this. I pulled a couple of bourbons up here, Whistle Pig, the 10 100 100, and Elijah Craig. This to me is the epitome of a sweet wheater bourbon. There's not a lot of deep complexity to it, but you're going to get the vanillas, you're going to get the caramels, you're going to get the basic oak notes off of it. And this is 100% rye, so definitely not a bourbon. This is a 100% rye whiskey. This is a blend. It's procured Canadian whiskey. They get it in Vermont, put it together, age it there, all of that. But we're going to look at this tasting wheel. Now, you can get these online, and I'll try to post a link down below to this one. But there's different ones. This is a very basic one. You may need one with a little more ideas in it for what you need to be looking for. But this breaks it down. And there's some, when you get into scotches, you need more of a wheel. This is more for bourbon, okay? So this is more on a whiskey side, but you can still pick these notes out. But basically, you have 5 categories, and really 6 if you count the florals, because it says fruit and floral, but you're going to get, but in the wood, out of a more high rye notes, you're going to get some of the conical, like cedar pine notes out of it. Oak here. You may get some pecan, walnuts, things off the nose and palate. Then you get into the grain, the sweet grain, corn, wheat, and malt, and then into the rye is the spicy notes. And then on around with spice, it breaks it into earthy and aromatic, and then it gives you some examples of those. The earthy, leather, coffee, tobacco tend to only get into the coffee, well, at least the leather and tobaccos on a older aged bourbon, at least for me. That's the only time I really pick it up. But there's other earthy tones. And there's grass, and there's other things that, you might could pick up on, hay, things like that, that I tend to pick up on, and I call it earthy. Aromatics, licorice, mint, herbal tea, cloves, and we talked about cloves in the other one, black pepper and cinnamon. So that's your spice range. Then on your sweets, you've got baked, candy, and buttery. And I hear people, and then baked goods is down here. And I hear people talk about, oh, it's a baked bread, or, I'm getting some of that out of it. I don't know. For me, I don't really use that category that much. Excuse me. I might get a little of it, but it doesn't come through for me. It's more of a subdued on the nose and not the palate. But I tend to get more into the butterscotch, honey, and toffee. And I know I talk about going from caramel into molasses. And for me, that's something I'm very familiar with. But on the wheel, it's the buttery notes. You get the caramel, vanilla, and maple syrup. It's what they have listed on here. And that's more, on this Elijah Craig over here. And then fruits and florals. And you may have heard me talk about fresh fruit versus dried fruit, or baked fruit, cooked apples. That's all listed in here with cooked, dried, fresh, berry, tropical. And it gives a whole bunch of different ones. But don't get stuck on the wheel, okay? The wheel is here for suggestions. And it's just like under floral, it says potpourri and rose. But I pick up on wildflower and things like that that's not listed on here at all. I know I described this as honeysuckle, but that's just a sweet aroma that I'm familiar with, but you may be familiar with other ones. Bourbon and whiskey in general is such a personal experience. It elicits memories. It makes you draw from past experience. It takes you back to those places and times. So, you know, there is no right or wrong answer. If you're getting a note off of your bourbon, it's there for you. And there is no right or wrong answer. So with that, let me go ahead and pour just a taste of the Whistle Pig, which we know is 100% rye. All right. And I'll get into more about the pours and things. And again, here at Bourbon Bounty, I'm never going to judge. We don't judge. But for me, I like pouring. I don't like going up like all the way up to the middle of the bubble up here, because when I swirl these around, at least for the nose, a little bit of bourbon or whiskey in the glass and allows me to get air in it a lot faster. Allows me to open up those notes a lot quicker than if it were filled all the way up to here. Now, if I'm just enjoying a snifter with a cigar, heck yeah, pour me up to here or even here, you know, because I'm going to go out. I don't want to walk back in every 10 minutes to get more bourbon. I want to take my snifter out there and sit around and enjoy it with the cigar. I'm not going to go into legs on these. Elijah Craig's not going to have the legs that Whistle Pig has because it's just a 10-year aged, 100% rye. But it does have decent legs on it. But I'm not going to go into all that. But we will look at the color. Whistle Pig's going to be a lighter color that you cannot use caramel color in bourbon and still call it bourbon. So this probably set in the barrel a little longer. As far as like this may have started off, we know this said 10-year, but this doesn't have to be new oak barrels. This could be used barrels. This could start off as a much blonder whiskey before it went into the barrel. So we don't know any of that. Plus we know it's a blend. So, but let me just start. I'm going to start with the bourbon. And this is a bourbon wheel. And of course, I'm very familiar with the wheel, but let me just give you the notes off of it like I did when I reviewed it. It's vanilla up front, and I can get the caramel. I know I'm very familiar with Elijah Craig, so I know what it's going to taste like. It's very good. It's a sweeter bourbon. Not a lot of floral in it. Probably a very low rye, if any. But it does smell like bourbon. Oh my gosh, I love that stuff. Now, the Whistle Pig, different experience altogether. Yep, there's that, when they go into the potpourri and the rose, very spicy nose on it from the rye. But it's just a completely different setup here. I mean, these are just, they're both whiskey, but they're not the same. They're never going to be the same because of the mash bill and the process used. But I'm not going to sit here and just nose these things. I'm going to taste them. Right off the bat with Whistle Pig, and I know I don't usually give notes on that first sip, but I'm also very familiar with that. Right off the bat, you do get those spices. You get that spicy note. The other thing is this is 100 proof, and this is only 94 proof. So this is probably going to be a little hotter. And I talk about them drinking hot, and what I'm talking about is you get that alcohol burn, sort of the tingly, on the tongue, and maybe a hit in the back, and it gives you that warmth, deeper into the drink. This does have a good finish on it. It is a spicier. It's spicier on the tongue, but it has a creamy finish on it, and so it's really pleasant to drink. And I like all forms of tasty adult beverages. So, but this is a fantastic rye, and I'm a neat drinker. So, if someone handed me you know, if I were at an event and they were making old fashions and the cart went by and I didn't have any other option, sure, I would grab an old fashioned. But if I have my, what we call druthers, if I had rather, I would go to the bar and say, can I have a neat pour of whatever it is that they have available? Now, that rye being aged for 10 years that we know of, you know, I do get those aromatics out of it. And this can help jog your memory, you know, and help you focus on something. A little licorice tinge to it. So I know I don't like to use the wheel for influence. I don't like to look up mash bills before I drink these. I like to just bring them to you. So I play off of familiar notes to me, the ones that are more familiar. But I'm going to take a taste of this. That's my swim lane right there. That's bourbon. And Elijah Craig is a fantastic bourbon. Sweet, a heck of a lot sweeter on the tongue than this one. But man, those oak notes come through on it. It is a little bit darker, but that vanilla, caramel, and like I said, I get like the sense of being around honeysuckle. And if you're not familiar with it, that's fine. A field of wildflowers or something. But this is just a fantastic bourbon. And I'm not reviewing these today. I'm just talking about them with the wheel. If I concentrate really, really hard on this and I try to attribute certain notes that I'm calling maybe oak, I could be convinced that I'm getting maybe a little walnut flavor in there or whatnot, but it's not pronounced to me that that's what it is. It's coming across more like I just took a chainsaw and I'm splitting oak wood is more of what I'm getting off of it. But sure, I could go along with a nutty note in there here or there, but I don't typically dissect them that much. What you're getting off this bourbon, and if you know whiskeys and you know other bourbons, you're getting more of a vanilla punch, some caramel, fresh into maybe partially cooked apple, not really any brown sugar in there just yet. Some of them you will get into more of that. I don't really get the leather and tobacco out of this one. It's not a deep aged bourbon, but man, this is a typical starter bourbon right here that will get you going down your road. But you know, I'm skipping over a lot, but that sweet, the corn and the wheat, sure. Yeah, it's there. The spices, I don't really get off of here. We just skip straight from the wood, the grain, and into the sweet. And then floral, okay, not spice floral, but maybe wildflower honeysuckle type thing. So, but it is really, really good. And I love it. So with that, again, I'm going to post, I'll try to find the link to the wheel and I'll post it down below. But as always, if you have any questions, comments, whatever, feel free, leave them down there. Please like and subscribe. And as always, hit that bell down there for notifications so you'll know when I post. And I'll see you next time. And I promise I'll keep making these videos.